The straw finally broke the camel's back. Evergrande has been balancing on a razor edge in this debt circus. Every measure taken by the real estate developer seemed to be a desperate attempt to postpone the inevitable. The company eventually teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. China's property market is the world's largest asset class, with Evergrande notoriously accounting for a substantial portion of it. We've been wondering, anticipating, and calculating the moment this awful death will occur. Welcome to the other side of China's housing market collapse. Spoiler alert, I'll go over Evergrande's default and what the Chinese government plans to do about it in this video. Welcome to Financial Market TV. If you're new to the channel and enjoy content like this, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Also, please don't hesitate to share your comments down below and give this video a like. Let's get started. This is not a video you should ever disregard. Evergrande might be the state of a global market firestorm. One of those is all too familiar in America. After surviving the Lehman Brothers, they realized that crossing 3 red lines might bring the long-established Chinese economy crashing down, as well as the rest of the world into a worldwide recession. The red flags. Without a certain, it is not the Chinese government. Some critics have argued that if China had not imposed the red lines, the world would be a better place. Evergrande would not be in their current predicament. The global economy would be safer as a result. However, things are not as straightforward as this. To be fair, it didn't start with a red lines policy. The policy had merely the consequence of revealing the cancerous growth in China. Developers were unable to maintain a healthy balance between their assets and debt. They chewed up more than they could eat. The money was there and it could be obtained quickly and with little risk, but they took it and put it into other businesses that, for the most part, are now a farce. After the rule, China's developers continued to borrow and exhibit their lofty ideas for the bright future of real estate in China as collateral residential property, which was a commodity that the Chinese people understood and was stable and yielded excellent returns at first. The more real estate you can acquire, the brighter your future will be, or so they thought. For every working adult in China, it's been a rite of passage. The hurried purchasing and desperation of Chinese locals to place their hard-earned funds into something secure is how the tumor grew. The government could have taken a microphone and shouted into the heavens that this item is secure and you can count on it, when they made the land a commodity that they could sell to their citizens. The Chinese people did bet that they poured in everything they could. The overpricing of those properties was no deterrent. In fact, they thought they would make more of this property in the future. Land moved from being a source of shelter to being a source of speculation. Safe investing developers run with that. Whether there were red lines or not, the tumor was already present. Those phrases simply broadcasted it to the rest of the globe. The calamity was about to strike. At the very least, the line served as a warning to investors with money invested in the Chinese property market. They weren't completely caught off guard, though, because most investors and individuals aren't strangers to liquidity problems. The downgrading. Evergrande, the Chinese real estate developer, allegedly defaulted on more than $1.2 billion in bond obligations for the first time since it came to prominence due to its large borrowing, according to Fitch, an international credit rating organization. Evergrande has missed the first of the 2 deadlines for those payments. It has now functioned within the grace period for the paying debt. This was unsurprising as they had been paying the other coupon payments in the same manner. Evergrande's grace period expired on Monday, putting the company in default. Evergrande's credit rating was reduced to a restricted default rating by Fitch. Investors were dissatisfied. The default has been dragged out for such a long time, and that's not altogether surprising. In a few minutes, I'll explain what the Chinese government is doing about it. The return of a Lehman situation. Let's start with the Lehman Brothers rumor. Many market experts are concerned that Evergrande's default may result in another Lehman moment. Lehman Brothers is still vivid in the minds of Wall Street, and the calamity it wreaked on the world's economies in 2008. As a result, that name will forever be associated with the global financial catastrophe. It's the ideal example of how a high-profile corporation that appears to be doing well can collapse overnight, dragging everyone down with it. As you can see, this isn't too far away from Evergrande's position. Right. In the same way as Lehman, it has long been regarded as one of the best in its field. The collapse of Evergrande, like that of Lehman Brothers, has the potential to spread throughout China's real estate sector. This is the largest contributor to China's GDP ever to go bankrupt. If Evergrande fails, China will fail as well, sinking all of China's trading partners, including the United States. There would be no spare parts. The world's second largest economy and its manufacturing behemoth cannot just collapse without influencing global markets. Thankfully, the government's red line regulation eliminated the surprise element of the collision that could have occurred otherwise, had the property giant not been exposed. Evergrande is too important to the government and too well known for it to become the next Lehman Brothers. In recent months, there have been photographs of creditors camping outside Evergrande in protest. This is similar to the images of workers camped outside Lehman Brothers after they were sacked. Even though the sadness, gatherings are split between the two. Evergrande has the advantage in terms of time. We may even discuss China's economy while it still exists due to the progressive disintegration edge. Because the Chinese government is in charge of the market panic, the developers have not yet created the global financial disaster. A Lehman moment is still a bit far-fetched, but we'll watch out how this all plays out. Property developer defaults in China's void. This year has been a rabbit hole of defaults by China's property developers. Since June 2021, there have been over 10 defaults by real estate developers in China. However, when contrasted to the earthquake that Evergrande can unleash, the combined influence of those enterprises is a blip on the radar. Evergrande's $300 billion debt is no laughing matter. Cathie is the latest Chinese real estate developer to default on $400 million in bonds. In Hong Kong, Cathie has halted stock trading. According to Bloomberg, property firms accounted for 36% of the $10.2 billion in offshore bonds defaulted on by Chinese creditors this year. If this were a race, China would win gold. But the situation in China's real estate market appears to be dire. What will the Chinese government do about this? Because Evergrande is by far the most indebted. Evergrande announced on Friday that it was getting increasingly difficult to pay its financial responsibilities, which the government has been overseeing. After that, the government called the company's owner to plot a course forward. After that, an announcement was made, outlining a series of steps to resolving the crisis. This could be the government's most significant national reform yet. To oversee the restructure, a risk management committee has been formed. The committee is largely made up of representatives from several state agencies. The committee consists of only 2 company leaders. The issue with creditors could have easily evolved into a feeding frenzy if the government had not overseen the disintegration of the once spectacular property market giant. An overnight collapse of the corporation will not happen. The Chinese government has been under international pressure to regulate its strained situation since it was made public. Guangdong's local government dispatched a team to the corporation to monitor and limit its operations. China has demonstrated that too big to fail is a myth. Evergrande is getting a gentle landing from the Chinese government, and it will land. Despite this, the government is keeping Evergrande from collapsing. This appears to be sufficient to quell much investor anxiety that might otherwise be out of control. However, some critics believe that this is how the government steals Evergrande and converts it into a state-owned company while ostensibly assisting it. It's possible that this was their plan all along. The future. This explains the government's constant calmness when it comes to the housing market. The slowdown in home purchases in China does not reassure real estate investors that their investments would provide a healthy return. Another difficulty in the slowing Chinese housing market is the proposal of property taxes on Chinese people who own multiple properties. China's real estate industry has an unclear future and is growing increasingly unattractive. Evergrande, which was once grand, is now closing down as one of the country's largest debt restructurings. What happens to China's economy after the restructuring is yet to be seen. Never undervalue the importance of a good leverage balance. Evergrande is footing the bill. The rest of the world can cross their fingers that this doesn't cause yet another global recession. Thanks for watching the whole video. Again, if you're new and like this type of content, subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to leave a comment down below and hit that like button. Also, click on the notification bell to get updated on our weekly uploads. See you in the next video!